I believe in modesty, and it starts out with a story about a little adventure I had at the cabin. It was a bright and humid morning. All night it had rained before the sun came up. The sky was blue, the grass was dewy, and the river radiated with a beautiful emerald green. My friend Lexi and I awoke to the neighborhood birds and my mother brewing coffee. As our sleepy eyes followed the path leading to the kitchen, we grabbed the biscuits from the cooling rack and we stuffed our faces with the sweet carbs as we ran outside to the garage where the kayaks laid dormant. She had never gone kayaking before, and it felt like the perfect morning for a kayak adventure. At least we thought it did. As we dragged the boats out to the shore of the river, I took in the sweet musky smell of the outdoors. Petrichor is the word, the smell of the earth after the rain. We stripped our clothes down to our swimsuits and took off in our kayaks downstream. I knew of a hidden creek with a warm pit that I was eager to show her. I knew the routine. I had boated many times. As we kayaked down the river, I noticed the river started to turn a brownish color. Lexi questioned it, but it didn't faze me. I knew what I was doing. Again, at least I thought I did. We were entering a minor rapid, so I assumed that was the reason for the color of the water. However, a current started picking up, and Lexi told me she was starting to get nervous. So I gave the okay that we can turn around and try again later, though I was bummed that we never made it to the creek. However, as we commenced rowing back upstream, I found it noticeably more difficult to make my way up the river, much more difficult than I had boated upstream in the past. We found ourselves fighting the current so much that we weren't moving forward, but instead the current was pushing us backward. This is when things started getting dangerous. The river dragged tree trunks and broken decks along the river. It was when I realized that we were about a couple miles from the cabin and that we were immediately in survival mode. I started panicking and looking left and right for answers. I knew my mother would be wondering where we were soon enough and that we had to get out of the river one way or another. I motioned Lexi to row toward the shore where we would grip the nearest tree root. Many attempts had frustrated me into realizing that this is much more difficult than I had thought, and that the river was only getting more and more aggressive. At last we pulled ourselves onto the shore along with our kayaks and oars, finding ourselves in the middle of acres and acres of grassland. As we trudged through the fields, getting stung by bees and cut by blades of tall grass, we had finally made it back to the cabin where my mother frantically came up to us and asked us where we were. Things started to settle, and I started having a paradigm shift about myself. In this, I believe in modesty. Not everyone knows everything about something. In other words, don't put yourself in a situation if you don't have a backup plan. Always plan for the worst, hope for the best, and don't be arrogant. Being arrogant about knowing how to do something can lead you up the creek, no pun intended.